Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Week Ahead News Show with me, Liam, my good friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back. I am not in the Middle East. That is good. There are no sand dunes behind me. There are no Iranian missiles overhead. I'm still alive and healthy. Happy to report.
Good to see you, Tommy. Welcome. Episode 54 of our show on the Lee Doodle channel. Hope you've enjoyed all of our episodes so far. It's currently March 16th, 2026. Week Ahead News Show, like we've been doing every week. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell if you want to be notified whenever we go live. Would really appreciate that. Subscribing helps us. We also have a Facebook in the description as well. If you ever want to follow us on there, we post when we go live. Hopefully like a couple hours before the show. I try to do it during lunch or right after work if I have time. Currently, the weather in Girard, it's currently 27 degrees. Feels like 14. Holy crap. High today was 59, low at 23. It was snowing. Still is. We have a winter weather advisory until 2 p.m. Tuesday. Some heavy conditions. Looking like lake effect snow, additional snow between 2 and 4 inches with winds as high as 45 miles per hour in northeast Ohio. So, in areas affected Trumbull. So, it'll be interesting to see. The snow is supposed to stop in the next 7 minutes, and then a little bit more at about 70% at 9 p.m., 40% at 11 p.m., and for 20% at 1 a.m. So, a little bit more throughout the night. Tomorrow, we have a 40% chance of snow, high at 26, low at 20, another cold one. Wednesday, we have a no snow, just partly cloudy, high of 37, low at 19. Thursday, 40% chance of rain, high of 30, low of 33. Sorry, high of 50, low of 33. Friday, partly cloudy, high of 57, low of 34. Saturday, high of 64, so a little bit warmer on Saturday, good to see. A low of 45, though, still cold, 50% chance of rain. Sunday, partly cloudy, high of 60, low of 37. Next Monday, about a week from now, high of 44, low of 30, partly cloudy. Right now, our moon is in morning crescent, illumination at 5%, moonrise at 6:24 a.m., moon set at 5:02 p.m., next full moon's in 17 days. We have a sunrise. Currently, we have a first light at 7:05 a.m. Our sunrise today is at 7:32 a.m. Sunset today was at 7:30 p.m., last light at 7:58 p.m., giving us almost 12 hours total of daylight, about 11 hours and 58 minutes. Good to see. We're almost getting there. The big 14 hours of daylight will be awesome. I did want to see, too, do we have precipitation numbers? We have about 2.4 inches in the last 6 hours, including rain and some snow. Tomorrow, it's about less than an inch, so it won't be nothing too crazy. Tommy will be going over stocks for the last week, and then we also have stocks above us and below us for today, which if I'm looking at are looking like a 1% to 0.5% gains. 1.22 to like 0.8, so good green today. How was the last 5 days, Tom?
Yeah. Shocker for nobody, but war is not good for the stock market. Dow is down 825 points over the past 5 days. That's 1.73%. S&P 500 is down 97 points. That's about 1.5%, and Nasdaq's down 348 points, which is also down a half of 1.5%. So, and then just personally, I'll mention this too. It's economically. I paid about $60 for gas today. Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted, guys. Sorry about that. I'm going to talk about that again. I was muted when I was saying all that, Tom. So I actually looked up gas prices real quick for Tom. Sorry for that little, dead air for a second. Yesterday average was about $3.41. A week ago was about $3.43. A month ago, $2.77. A year ago, $2.93. So even with inflation, like gas is just skyrocketing right now, and we saw it, during Biden and at the start of Trump when gas was lower. Everyone talked about how Trump was doing that and Trump's helping out, and I saw that just like with Biden, Trump's releasing some of our oil reserves to help out with that, and prices go down. I think he did that like last week, so that kind of makes sense if they're going down a little bit. But war's not helping gas prices. My car, since it's a high combustion turbo, I gotta get the premium gas over 91. And most places in Ohio don't sell 91 or 92; they sell 93, so you get screwed on that. And it's about $4.50 a gallon right now. So holy hell, it's a whole dollar more than regular, and sometimes it's $1.50 more. So it really all depends. And this regular is just really high right now, so not doing well for it. So make
And
sure
you know, it
you good.
it just shows too. Talking about gas prices and all that stuff, it's just completely ridiculous that anybody is surprised by this. The president, the Republicans in Washington, they act surprised that gas prices are going up. Let me be very, very, very clear. Anybody that knows anything about the Middle East knows that the first thing Iran was going to do was close the Strait of Hormuz and cut off 1/5 of the world's oil supply. Okay, and the fact that seemingly Donald Trump was like surprised by that, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Like, but again, though, he probably doesn't even know where the Strait of Hormuz is. Like I don't know.
True. And his cabinet members definitely don't. But if I was president, I'd be having good people in there that would. But that's Trump for you, and it's gonna keep hurting us. So I'm going to go on real quick to a funny topic, if you are, Tom.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the past with a little bit with the name change and all that beef. Looks like Trump's closing the Kennedy Center right now. Closing the Kennedy Center to undergo a major transformation. There's based on an NBC news report from March 16th, 2026. The John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts is undergoing a major transformation. Here's some key details about the approved plan. It's a 2-year shutdown. Board of Trustees have officially approved a 2-year closure of the venue to facilitate a massive overhaul. The budget and scope, it's about going to cost around $250 million. That's a lot, kind of like Trump's ballroom. The renovation will focus on modernization of the building's aging infrastructure, improving acoustics in the main theater, and updating the exterior marble facade. Timeline, it's supposed to begin this July for projected reopening in time for fall of the 2028 season. Reasoning for the full closure. Leadership determined that a full shutdown would be the most cost-effective and safer than a phased renovation, which would have taken over 5 years to complete while disrupting performances. Or they're disrupting them for 2 years, but I also get that. Like, if it's easier to get done in 2 years than 5, kind of all depends on what job you're doing. The really important stuff you kind of have to phase out. Impact on programming: the National Symphony Orchestra and the Washington National Opera would be forced to find temporary homes at other D.C. area venues, such as the Anthem or Constitution Hall. So that'd be kind of cool. Annual events like the Kennedy Center Honors and the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor will likely be relocated to alternate venues, which will be interesting. Maybe even in New York or L.A. While the center receives annual federal appropriations, a significant portion of $250 million is expected to come from private donations. Trump loves to do that, and it's probably each room, just like for ballroom, is going to be sponsored. You're going to be taking a piss, and it's going to be a Google urinal cake. So that's fun. I love America. Let's sponsor every government building. Let's do it. Trump administration has expressed support for a project as a long overdue modernization of a national landmark. There are some workforce concerns, and the board is committed to a retention plan for its nearly 1,000 employees. 2 years without work's kind of hard. Though union representatives for stagehands and usher staff have expressed concerns regarding potential furloughs during that dark period. It's just interesting, something that's happening right now. We saw, like we talked about in the past, with some beef about that, but now we're seeing, them closing it down for a full 2 years. So, quick topic about that. I don't really care either way. I do care about the private funding, because, like, with everything, and we talked about this with a ballroom, if you could spend $100 million, and it doesn't need to be private funded at all, sometimes it's better, especially for government buildings. Because we see with this ballroom, like, every room's going to be named after a company, there's going to be sponsorship, placards everywhere, it's just going to be disgusting. So, I don't like that. What do you think, Tom?
Listen, just a quick recap of how we got here. At the beginning of Donald Trump's second disastrous term. Oh my God, I don't like to think about it. But at the beginning of that, um, he fired the whole board of the Kennedy Center, and he made himself the chairman of the Kennedy Center. He renamed it the Trump Kennedy Center. So it's just absolutely crazy. The president is inserting himself in the day-to-day runnings of a performing arts center. He's taking it. He's literally quite literally molding and manipulating the express purpose of the Kennedy Center, which is to be a living memorial to the former president and to promote civilian arts. He's literally divesting it of its original purpose and turning it into a tool of self-aggrandizement. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and it just proves, once again that not only is our president an idiot, he's deeply, deeply, deeply incompetent and he's deeply incompetent because he inserted himself into this situation, and his very own action is what actually derailed the Kennedy Center. Artists started closing, artists started canceling, they stopped
Yeah, we did
going
talk about
to
that too.
different
Yeah.
events, and that made him look bad. That made him look bad, so of course he's gonna close it. He's like, "Oh, we gotta do repairs," but really, they're closing it because nobody likes the president, and nobody wants to go perform at a performing arts center that has the name, that has his name on it. The name of a guy that was, found civilly liable for sexual assault. Like, no wonder anybody would not wanna perform there, So it's just crazy, and our president, just once again, is a horrible human being.
Agreed.
So that's pretty
And
much
no,
what I
that's
had to
true. And
say
that's
about
actually
that.
smart, Tommy. I didn't think about that. But like, really, like if you were having issues and no one was showing up, yeah, renovate it, and then you'd be like, oh, it's so much nicer now, and then he won't be president. So more people will perform. And, a year later when he's not president, that's kind of smart. I won't lie. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, good trick by Trump. Are you, Tommy? Will go into international one topic for tonight. Some more stuff about the wars and
Yeah.
stuff going on in the Middle East.
So this is bad. This is a very bad topic, and this topic really illustrates how this crazy, 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 and very, 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 very damaging idea of masculinity, how it just infects things, and how it really, really, really hurts a lot of different people. Um, so Hegseth ignored military officials when he slashed officers that let limit risk to civilians. So last year, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth considered gutting or significantly downsizing the Department of Defense offices dedicated to minimizing civilian harm during military operations. Top military commanders and Pentagon officials warned that removing these bureaucratic safeguards would increase the risk to non-combatants and could undermine the legitimacy of U.S. military actions. Um, the warnings specifically focused on the Civilian Harm Mitigation and Response Action Plan, an initiative established to provide better oversight, data collection, and standardized procedures for avoiding civilian deaths. Um, So arguments against the cuts. Leaders argue that high civilian casualty rates fuel insurgencies. They do. Damage international alliances. They do. And provide propaganda for adversaries. Officials noted these offices help ensure that the U.S. remains in compliance with international humanitarian law and the laws of armed conflict. And experts emphasized that the specialized cells are necessary to distinguish between combatants and civilians in complex urban environments. So those are very, very, very logical arguments for not cutting a department like this. But then you have Mr. Pete Hegseth, with his deraved version of masculinity, who is like, that's just woke, like that's just woke. It's just preventing our soldiers from being killing machines, you know. So sources suggest that Hegseth views these offices as woke distractions or clogging the gears of lethal efficiency. Lethal efficiency. He has reportedly expressed a desire to return to a more unfeathered approach to warfare to ensure total victory. That's some bullshit, masculine bullshit right there, if I've ever heard it. Um, so, listen, this is disastrous, and this is just bad, 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 bad public policy on a variety of different levels. So, Um, as I'm sure most of you know, last week the United States of America bombed a school that killed around 200 children. Okay, and that sort of mistake by the armed forces is quite literally just not acceptable. There has to be reasonable, concrete, and actionable precautions in place that can stop and minimize the reduce of civilian death in any sort of armed conflict that the United States of America is involved in. It's critical for a variety of reasons. First is the United States has a moral obligation to comply with the international rules of armed conflict and the rules of international law and all of those different things. The United States, in my view, has a firm duty to follow those rules and those international laws. So that's number one. And then number two, um, when you are fighting an armed conflict in the Middle East and you kill 180 school kids, what do you think those kids' fathers are gonna do? Are they gonna be like, "Oh, I love the United States of America"? I wouldn't. I wouldn't, just completely rationally. You
Yeah.
know, taking actions like this that, are detrimental to civilian life, it creates and breeds more terrorists, and it
More
creates more
extremism. Yeah.
terrorism, okay? So that is why it is so incredibly important that the United States of America take these concrete steps to reduce civilian casualties. Listen, the United States of America, and Israel, we were able to determine to the time where the last Ayatollah of Iran was, so we could bomb him. Okay? We were able to do that, but we weren't able to know that there was a school, like, right next to this base. Like, that's just simply unacceptable. And listen, I understand. I understand that in war is bad, war is bloody, war is disgusting, and I understand that in war that there are going to be civilian casualties. But that is why it is so important that procedures and safeguards are in place to prevent them. And getting rid of these departments, it's idiotic, it's immoral, and it's also against the national security interests of the United States. This makes us less safe. And we just have to be invested in preserving civilian life whenever we engage internationally. So, Liam, what do you have to say?
Yeah. So far, I agree, Tom. With everything you're saying at the end there, and a lot like these first two stories are kind of like bad parts about war, why we really shouldn't be in war right now. But we should be smart with it. And the fact that we're seeing that, we've seen us say, well, we don't care about these civilians, and people on both sides, say, oh, well, we are. Well, they're not right now. So we need to do more than that, and history's going to remember that crap really easily. So it's just sad.
The U.S. Central Command, which is the command that is like where the command that all the generals they're waging this war in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many people they have right now dedicated to preserving civilian life?
I don't know, free?
One.
Dang.
One person.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah, and in modern wars and how, most Americans feel about nowadays, both sides, we don't want to be killing civilians. And we're kind of past that with high tech, and it just blows my mind. So, a lot of times, me and Tommy were talking about, like, it's like a calculated risk. They see it, and it shouldn't be bad at all. But go on.
Yeah. And what we saw in Iran was very different. This was a school it was an established school. This is not a situation where, there were some terrorists in this building, and they left 2 hours before we struck, and kids were playing in the building. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very different situation than, there is literally a school. It says school on it. Yeah, we have to be better.
Agreed. And like I've been saying about it, like I wouldn't want half of San Diego getting blown up because of a naval base in San Diego. Like,
Yeah.
you actually attack the bases, you actually attack the terrorists, you don't attack places around. It's not right. And with Pete Hegseth, we've kind of seen he doesn't care. We've seen that with the boats and things in the past. He doesn't really care about right or wrong. He doesn't care about, what to do in war. So it's sad.
And in this school, I read up a little bit about it. So this school, it used to be like enclosed in the military base that we attacked. So this school was was sitting like right next to the military base we attacked.
Mm-hmm.
But the Iranians, they actually like took it out of the military base. Like at one point, it was like like in the same fence.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was in the same fence, don't bomb the school. Obviously, 100%. Obviously, but literally like 10 years ago, they changed the fence and they like took the school out of the base.
Oh wow!
So,
Yeah.
we should have known that.
Yeah, we have all this high tech, and we're great with intel.
Yeah.
So really, it's caring about life.
Looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more people. We need, as a government, to care more about life. It's not, war is never like, oh, my life matters more than yours. And that's a lot of problem with people that come back from war, and that's why they have a lot of trauma and PTSD, is because they finally realize that, oh, whoever I killed, he was a man of a family too. Think about that at the time, but, when you got years later thinking about it, it hits. So we'll go on to the next topic about it, National One, which is kind of also, like we talked about, I said before, the bad parts about war. Where was U.S. service members killed in a refueling aircraft crash in Iraq, identified some of them as Ohio National Guard members, and also Florida-based crew. So there are 6 U.S. Air Force members who died in a military aircraft crash over Iraq. Have now been officially identified, and investigators are continuing to work on determining exactly what went wrong. Happened on March 12th, just 4 days ago, when a U.S. Air Force KC-135 aerial refueling tanker went down during operations in western Iraq. Aircraft was supporting missions connected to the ongoing conflict involving Iran. All 6 crew members on board were killed, according to U.S. Military officials. The aircraft was conducting a mid-air refueling mission, a routine but complex operation where a tanker aircraft provides fuel to other planes in flight. Probably seen it online a lot now. We need it for like a lot of our bombers and other fighters. But during the mission, the KC-130 apparently collided with another refueling aircraft midair. One plane crashed while the other aircraft, damaged but still controllable, managed to land safely in Israel, which is crazy. I don't know if that's just like there's so much going on, if there's not a lot of people in operations helping them out, but we've seen here recently helicopters hit civilian planes, or a civilian plane hit a helicopter because the helicopter was somewhere it shouldn't be. And now we're seeing 2 military planes, big ones, KC-130s, hitting each other midair. That's like, it's like 2 Empire State Buildings sideways hitting each other midair. It's kind of hard to like not miss that. But, I don't know what's happening. That's just crazy. Officials emphasized that the crash was not caused by hostile fire, meaning it wasn't the result of the enemy attack. Instead, it appears to have been an accident during the aerial operation. And we'll have to see with the formal investigation coming away and see what happened in this case. Might be computers too. I don't know if they use like AI or computers to detect like where these planes are by each other and try to keep them a minimum distance. And maybe that failed some way. Kind of like autopilot, but communicating throughout planes. Pentagon identified the 6 airmen who lost their lives. There was Major John Alex Cleaner, 33 out of Auburn, Alabama. Captain Ariana Cervino of Covington, Washington. Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt out of Bardstown, Kentucky. Captain Seth Koval out of Mooresville, Indiana. Captain Curtis Angst, 30, out of Wilmington, Ohio. And Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, 28, out of Columbus, Ohio. 3 of the crew members were assigned to the 6th Air Refueling Wing at the McDale Air Force Base in Florida, while the other 3 served at the 121 Air Refueling Wing out of the Ohio National Guard. So kind of interesting how like we always do this as a military, certain people get sent out, they're still helping. So it's crazy. The crash is also notable because it comes during a period of heightened U.S. military operations in the Middle East, with a conflict involving Iran escalated early this year. We've already seen several American service members been killed in various incidents connected with these missions. So we'll have to see what they say. Military leaders and elected officials across the country have issued tributes honoring the airmen service and sacrifice. With Ohio's officials ordered flags to be lowered at half staff, which I saw today after learning 2 of the victims were members of the state National Guard. Kind of we were talking about before, it's sad. It's something that like with modern wars, like we really shouldn't be seeing mistakes like this, and we keep seeing it. And people will say war is war, but in a modern era, it's not. The whole reason. Here's a great example. Deaths in World War II were great. But if we were fighting the same countries, but we were fighting in Roman era, Roman versus Persians, spheres, bows and arrows, you know what I mean? There's always advancements. Is what I'm trying to say, even with the numbers. So I mean, we should be not having these types of mistakes happen, especially with something like this. I mean, that's just scary. I don't know if we were just weren't controlling the air in that area very well, or it could have been a pilot mistake. We'll have to see. But sad to see, and sad to see service members are still losing their lives in this war. It's a modern war. We've been talking about drones and AI and all this crap that's helping them out, robots. We don't really need to see that many casualties being taken place. What do you think, Tom?
Well, this is a tragedy, obviously. My heart goes out to the people that lost their lives and their families and their loved ones. It's obviously incredibly sad whenever we lose members of our armed forces fighting overseas. Um, yeah, it's mid-air refueling is just there needs to be an investigation to see if anything, what went wrong, what sort of procedures could be put in place to stop that from happening again. But I will say this, um, mid-air refueling is just generally speaking just incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Okay. So it's very much conceivable. I think that there was a mistake that was made, that uh cost these people their lives, and it's very, very, very sad. Um, yeah, I have nothing but sympathy for them and their families. And hopefully an investigation can be launched that we'll get to the bottom of exactly what happened, and if anything can be done to prevent um something like this from happening again. Yeah, so just rest in peace. And I thank you for your service.
Agreed, Tom. Good way to put it. Yeah, thank you for your service. Sorry it happened now. I don't know. I don't like people dying at war. It's crazy to me. So hopefully this, just stops. Like we don't need to see this keep happening. Just keep bombing for no reason. So Tom, we'll be going on to our National 2 topic of the night.
Yeah. Um, Donald Trump is a weak, weak, weak man, and this is the I crashed out a little bit when I read this headline. You know, so Trump eases Russian oil sanction as Iran war sends prices spiking. Again, this should not be surprising. Um, so according to the NBC News report, Donald Trump moved to ease several sanctions on Russian oil in response to the economic pressure caused by the ongoing conflict with Iran. Um, The administration is effectively ending the price cap policy, which previously sought to limit Russian oil sales to $60 a barrel. This allows Russia to sell its crude at market rates using Western shipping and insurance services. I don't want any Russian oil using Western shipping and insurance services. Um, Targeted specific sanctions on Russian shadow fleet, and several major energy subsidies have been suspended. So Russia being kind of the boogeyman of the world, they they operate this fleet of like unmarked tankers that just takes their oil around the whole world. It's like Russia basically Russia has like a bunch of Ford Transit vans with no license plates on them, and that's how they get their oil around. But they do it with ships, obviously. So Donald Trump, he suspended the sanctions on their shadow fleet, which has been used to illegally export their oil. Um, so this decision is in a direct response to the spike in global oil prices following U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure. Officials stated the move is necessary to prevent a domestic gas price catastrophe. Geopolitical trade-offs. The move has drawn sharp criticism from Kiev, um, with officials arguing that increased revenue will directly fund Russia's military efforts in Ukraine. So Americans, we're going to get cheap gas, but Ukrainians, they're going to fight and die. Uh, and in Europe, while some European leaders expressed concern over the weakening of the United Front, others privately welcomed the thing. but a lot of European leaders, they're also very, very, very upset because the Russian oil sanctions are still in place in Europe. So European, the EU is saying we're not going to buy your Russian oil, and Europe is still in the same situation as we're in with Iran. 1/5 of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Not anymore. It's not going to U.S. and it's not going to Europe. Okay, but Europe said we're not going to buy Russian oil. We're not going to reward a tyrant that is Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump said, I'm a weak man and I need cheap gas for my people. Okay.
And we've seen this before, Tom, because if the EU has been hurt the hardest with the oil and natural gas prices changes from Russia, and Trump and a lot of Americans said they will never get off of it. And they were able to. I think it took them 2 years, and they were able to be fully fine without caring about Russia. You know what I mean? The first year, that winter was horrible in Europe. Like, you know what I mean? I think natural gas prices was double. You know what I mean? People were getting screwed. But, eventually they were able to do it. We could do it here, too. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Everything you said is absolutely correct, Liam. Thank you. That's, so it just portrays weakness. Like, listen, I don't like this war in Iran. Because the war in Iran has no purpose. No one has told me what the purpose of this war is. Is it regime change? Is it to get rid of the nuclear program? Which, full disclosure, I'm in favor of getting rid of their nuclear program. Okay, but no purpose has been expressed.
Yeah, no good reason.
No purpose has been expressed, but yet we are still here fighting this armed conflict with no purpose. And then everyone just acts surprised that gas prices go up. And now all of a sudden we got to take this drastic measure of letting in Russian oil. Any competent leader would have been able to formulate a plan that would have been able to combat this. They would have been able to think, we're not going to get 1/5 of the oil anymore, 1/5 of the world's oil anymore. We got to think of something else to do. But Donald Trump, I guess, was like, no, we'll buy from the Russians. It's absolutely ridiculous. It portrays weakness. It rewards a tyrant who broke international law in his illegal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine. And it's just bad. It's just bad foreign policy out of an administration that does nothing but bad foreign policy. Really, why don't they let me do foreign policy?
They should better than Pete, but I think that's why they put Pete there. So,
so that's all I had to say about this. I was like, really, and again, by the way, you mentioned Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth with his bullshit idea of masculinity. Oh, we're gonna cut the civilian defense department, manly. But at the same guy, his daddy's like, give me all the Russian oil, Vlad, Daddy Vlad. Give me all the Russian oil, Daddy Vlad. It makes no sense, and it's ridiculous.
Agreed. Like kind of I said before, it's just dumb. That we are doing this. Like other countries in Europe could be fine. With Iran happening right now, I mean, I get it with gas prices and how Trump is, and he knows that, his supporters really think he controls gas prices, and the president do. That's why we saw Biden, I did that. We're not seeing I did that stickers on the gas pumps right now, so that's a little funny to me.
Yeah.
But I'm ready going.
We should go around the county and put them on those.
We should. They would love that. They'd be ripping them off. It would be funny.
Get some really good adhesive, some of the 3M, the main brand stuff.
Yep.
And we could put two, one over the other, so they peel one, there's another one right under it.
That's a good idea. Great goated idea, actually. Someone get this man. All right. So we're going to a local one. Hope you guys enjoyed the national topics so far tonight. A local one's pretty quick, pretty easy. Not much happening in local news, but this is some good stuff. City-backed home repair program ended up helping 149 houses, almost 150. There's a city-backed home repair program in Warren. Is helping dozens of low-income homeowners fix critical problems in their houses. But officials say demand for the program is now growing faster than the available funding. The program, run by the Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership, focuses on emergency home repairs for residents who could otherwise not afford them. Since launching in 2023, like I said, it's helped 149 homes repair serious issues like leaking roofs, broken furnaces, and other safety concerns that can make homes unlivable. Funding for the effort initially came from $1 million in the American Rescue Plan money, which you've seen a lot of cities got tons of money from that and how they allocated it certain things, along with $250,000 from the city's general fund. The goal is not just to fix individual homes, but to stabilize neighborhoods by preventing homes from falling into disrepair and eventually needing demolition. Another good thing, and we've seen actually other cities use city of Akron about a month or 2 months ago, they finally removed their last lead service line. Youngstown hasn't done that yet, but the city of Akron was able to do it because they put some of that American Rescue Plan money right into that. We've seen Warren, they put in millions of dollars into, school facilities, so you could do whatever you want with that. So interesting. The goal is not just to fix individual homes, but to stabilize neighborhoods by preventing homes from falling into disrepair and eventually needing demolition. Like I said before, sorry about that. Officials say about 1.17 of a million have already been spent on repairs, with another 80,000 already committed to upcoming projects. The program has no current set end date, but future work will depend heavily on additional grants and continued city support. The households on average are seeing help from the community. Most financial vulnerable residents, on average, homeowners who qualify for the program earn just under $22,000 per year, meaning even relatively small repairs can be overwhelming. Most on the projects focus on urgent health and safety issues, 52% was roofs and gutters, 15.4% heating or HVAC, 8.3%. Home accessibility improvements such as ramps or railings. Similar portions go to plumbing, electrical work, and water heaters, which is cool to see. The average project costs about $8,000 to $15,000 in assistance. So very interesting as a whole. It's been highly effective at attracting additional funding as well. Since 2023, the original money has helped leverage 6 or 7 additional grants, bringing in 4 to 5 million more to support homes in this area. So they're still, if they're 4 to 5 million and they only spent 1.17, they're doing very well. Success has created a new challenge, demand to grow. Officials say about 163 households are currently on the waiting list, and the list grows to 5 to 10 new applicants every week. But with the money and people paying into it, hopefully it keeps working out. City officials have appraised a partnership behind the program, noticing that leveraging city dollars with outside grants allows a community to stretch limited funding much farther than a community could do on its own, and we've seen this with other capital improvement projects throughout cities. Roadways, water lines, wastewater lines, stormwater lines, water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants. A city will never buy something with fully on their own money. If they are, they're doing something wrong. They always spend a little bit of their money, and then they spend a lot of grant money. Because the cities just don't make taxes to get the big piece of a tax pie that they do. A lot of these times it's the counties, it's the states, the feds. They need to trickle down that economics and help out the cities in a way that trickle down economics works when your taxes aren't right. So this is something that we've seen in the past. A lot of these cities would be screwed if they actually had to do this on their own. And it would be nice if this was more of a federal program. We've seen federal programs, state programs help out with this. A lot of it was on Biden money and American Rescue Plan, Build Back Better plans, and we've seen less money get put towards that with Trump and some money get taken away. So kind of the end result of it, but still happy people are getting help around here and that money's actually getting spent. What do you think, Tom?
Just to piggyback on what you say, I think this is a great program. I support it. We need to get people staying in their homes. We need more affordable housing, and if it makes more sense to repair a home versus tearing it down and building a new one or building public housing, absolutely. I think this is absolutely fantastic. Great, great, great program. I hope it continues to raise, get the funding it needs. And I'm hoping, that it continues to do good work. And hopefully maybe it'll even be expanded, so they can work on that waiting list. Um, Listen, so my takeaway from this is very simple. Democrats deliver. That is my takeaway from this story, and that is something that nobody really likes to talk about. And thank you to Liam for very briefly just saying President Joe Biden, who gave all of this money to the cities that let them do this. For far too long, stories like this have been misconstrued in the press. Oh, ARPA money, ARPA money, ARPA money. But the press and people, that they don't like to tell you where that ARPA money came from. And the answer is very simple. It came from President Joe Biden and the Democrats. Okay? Because of President Joe Biden and the Democrats, um, the federal government was able to provide ARPA money to the various cities that was then able to set up this program with Trouble Neighborhood Partnership, funded by ARPA, funded by taxpayer money, and they were able to do good things with this. And it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. But make no mistake, when Denny Malloy, or when Rick Hernandez or Tony Bernard, I don't know if Tony Bernard can talk even really, but when they get up and they start saying these great things, just know that their party had nothing to do with it, and the Tribune won't say the Dems did it either. So I will.
Yep, and we've seen that time and time again. One of my projects I really enjoyed working on past year was called Forest Lawn Stormwater Park. It was in Boardman, Ohio. Just got finished built past couple months. Will be pretty much ready in the spring. But a great example of this, and Tommy's saying, I've talked with people on the right. There's corruption everywhere. People that still had jobs because of triple P, sorry, payroll protection plan or whatever, the loans.
Yeah.
People scammed that. People scammed COVID money that kept businesses open. Business owners, they bought Lamborghinis in Florida and had a good time. You watch post after post about it. Same with the rescue plan, but there are ways that it helps out Americans just tremendously. So this project in Boardman, the township had an old elementary school, had asbestos, mold, old crappy school they weren't going to use at all. There was this sitting there. They decided to use some of their, kind of like I talked about with Warren, using it for athletic purposes. They wanted to use some of the money to make a park in the school, demo the school, create a nice stormwater park, first of its kind in Ohio, at least in this area we've ever seen. Amazing project that the city wouldn't be able to do without the American Rescue Plan and help from Joe Biden. And there were signs there, and we've seen even Trump change the signs to put his name on it. We've seen politicians do it. It's the stuff that's going to help us for generations. A lot of that has been, and a lot of infrastructure has been, and we just needed it. We would have been screwed without. Look, see how the economy is doing right now. See how people are spending right now. Tariffs screwed a lot of spending. Build Back America has helped that. A lot of I've had projects for water main lines for the city of Youngstown. Big water lines, 36 inches. It's iron from India. Ductile iron. We used to build that in America like it was nothing back in the day. So I don't know what happened, and then the tariffs just going to make that worse, and we don't build it in America, so it's certain things you just have to do. It's very interesting, but I'm happy that's actually helping people. And Tommy's right, we've always delivered. Doesn't matter if it's for ACA, and that's personally helped me out in my life, and millions of Americans, and people still don't even understand how much it helped with having a preconceived condition, or whatever it's called, pre-existing condition. That ACA has really helped out cement for ADA and protect people with disabilities in America.
Giant pre-existing condition.
Yo, and it's messed up. So many Americans are. No American should not be able to get health insurance because they're sick because of their environment from some company 50 years ago. And that's what we've seen in this country. That's what educated people are seeing in this country. So it's nice that we're seeing once again, like me and Tommy are saying, Democrats do deliver, and I'm tired of it. We really do. A lot of these areas have got so much help from this COVID money, and it really blows my mind. It's going to help them out for generations. It's something that was needed to be done because that lack of infrastructure was taken away. But it's happy to see it, and it's interesting that every community spends it in certain ways, but it's cool to see.
Yeah, and remember Donald Trump did infrastructure week during his first term. Remember that? He's like, it's going to be infrastructure. Not a single dollar was spent on infrastructure during infrastructure week during Donald Trump's first term. It took Joe Biden and the Democrats to not only, get us out of a pandemic, but to also invest in American infrastructure. And no amount of Republican lying and, press just, looking over it is going to change that.
I agree with that. The whole week was for influence. Influencers came by and podcasters. We need a serious president that does serious things and actually makes change. Not just, a facade, not just a fugazi, or however you say it. It's just not my stuff. We've seen it time and time again. Let me know how to help you. Is it tax breaks? Because that don't really help you. Saving $100 a month, that does sound nice. If that's a tax break, that's a tax break. But there's a lot of more other things we could be doing right now. I'd rather have my streets nice.
Yeah, get the streets nice. And by the way, people like us aren't getting our tax breaks. our dickheads of bosses are going to be getting those tax breaks.
Because I've seen two things so far. People I work with, engineers, some of them actually thought they weren't going to get taxed on overtime. I don't know why they thought that. Like, we're professionals. One, we signed off on that. Two, like, we make over, 60, over 50, over 80, depending on over 100, depending on your stage of engineering. Like, we're not going to be the ones that aren't going to be doing this. So it just blows my mind how people get, scammed. But that's just me. I'm happy once again, like me and Tom talking about, like time and time again, we actually help people out, help out Americans. It doesn't matter if it's stimulation checks. And people were complaining about that then, well, oh, well, this is going to hurt the economy later on. Of course it is. The government's spending a crap ton of money at once and giving it to people, letting them do what they want. But for people complaining about that, they probably weren't for ones that were reliant on that money, that actually helped them out. And that's all what it's about. Same with the businesses. Some businesses scammed, some businesses didn't need that loan. But it saved up a lot of businesses, and that's what it's all about.
So during COVID, the federal government was they had two choices. It was a binary choice during COVID. It's either A, inflation, or B, the country collapse. It's...
And every country made the same choice, too, yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Because, by the way, not doing these stimulus checks, not investing in people, all that would have helped was the rich people who already had their money. Never forget that.
And a lot of people just aren't taught on, Tommy, that the more healthy your population is, the more happy your population is, the more productive it actually is. And that's something that, too, if we would have took that hit of people being broke, dying from starvation, as well as COVID at the same time, like, it would have hurt us for generations. And people don't really understand that should be the number one thing.
I will take high inflation over people starving and and literally the country collapsing. The choice was the right decision. It wasn't a good choice. Like, it was two bad choices, but that was clearly the better choice.
Because, Tommy, all those people that didn't like that and that were saying that, they were not saying that when Obama bailed out GM or the federal government bailed out the banks, because that was a lot of spending as well. And it's different. It's different when it's their money, you know what I mean, and they're not losing a lot of money in the 401ks or just their investments, you know what I mean. So we have to be fair about this stuff. The government, and it's funny, like everyone says, when it's like, oh, I'm the government, I'm here to help. They're not here to help you. Sometimes that is true, but sometimes it is also wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. Great example. If I was in Katrina or there was a flood, a hurricane, major natural disaster here, and I'm on the top of my building or my building's collapsed, and I hear, oh, we're FEMA, we're here to help. I'm not going to be like, well, go away. Don't help me, National Guard. Don't help me. I don't want your help. Like, no, I'm going to want their help. When people say that when the government's not their lifeline. But sometimes the government becomes their lifeline, even in businesses. Because, bankruptcies and COVID money.
It's crazy, too. Some people, they act like they don't need a lifeline. They don't want a lifeline. I don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to be a part of it. So, well, shut up then, go live in the woods. You know what I mean? Like, go live in the woods then, Like, we are a community. We need to take care of one another. We need to, fund services that help our community. And, some guy, this was several years ago, was like on Chat Like a Champion. It was a local Facebook page. It was like, the fire department, blah, 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 they're costing too much money. I just put on there, go live in the woods.
I actually do agree with that, because there's people that love it. There's people that could do it. I would like that life. It's a simple life. It's a good life. It's a hard life, though. You know what I mean? If you have the understanding of, bushwhacking it pretty much, it's tough. But go do it if that's what you want. You know what I mean? And if hey, buddy, if your house burns down because you left a candle on, or even it was a dry season and some timber started a fire outside, like, there's no one there to help you. I watched videos where, some of those guys living in the woods, first of all, you need a lot of money up front. And two, like, it's smart. Like, he had his own fire department, and it was him. You know what I mean? So, like, I get it. Like, if you know what I mean? If you have to think about these things. Yeah. But this dude's literally providing government services for himself. So it's like eventually you get there.
The guy's like, I don't want to pay taxes. I'm just going to set up my own fire department.
And I've seen it, like, Rick from Pawn Stars for Dad. not for grandfather, but the bald dad. He has this beautiful property in Oregon, multi-acres. He has pump stations on rivers that sends him his water. So perfectly designed. He had engineers help him out. He has a fire truck with a working pump if he ever needs it. And I'm like, buddy, that's the most rich thing ever. Oh, my house is on fire. What are you gonna take? Your side by side? Go to a fire truck? Come back? Your house is gone by that time? Like, blows my mind, bro. And I don't even know. Like, you would literally need fire hydrants. Not many people know. Fire hydrants are there, so like fire departments can get water. Like there's a tanker truck, but they can't hold that much water. A tanker truck will hold like a minute of water, blow it all out on the building, and then that's it. But most trucks have pumps. They're called pumper trucks. They come up, attach to that freaking fire hydrant, and then it has pumps in the truck that pressurizes that water, sends it out a little bit better. Sometimes they even connect it to buildings. So it's just crazy. Kind of going off track, but once again, even rich people, once they get up there, they're providing their own government services. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, but this is a good government service. I'm very happy that these people were able to get their homes repaired and stuff like that. I'm looking on here right now. It says the average person in this program earns just under $22,000 per year. That's a very, very, very hard living, and we as a community need to be supporting people like that, so they stay off the streets, and they stay happy and healthy, and hopefully, probably with the help of the government, gain some upward mobility. It's very important that programs like these be funded.
Agreed. Even if this is for a house, that's most likely two people too. You know what I mean? They're either like living on the lowest income or disability, or they're not making working minimum wage jobs. So yeah, they need the help. So I'm happy to see that. I really appreciate everyone stopping by. We'll be here next Monday for episode 54. There's a week ahead episode 50. Sorry, episode 55 will be next week. Today was a week ahead episode 54, March 16th, 2026. I got numbers in my head. We'll be here also Thursday. Actually, we won't be here Thursday. I'll be gone. So no sports show this week. Maybe we'll do it Sunday night. We'll have to see if I have time. If not, make sure you stop us by in a week at 8:30. We'll be here. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. We post on there. Subscribe if you're not already. Ring that bell below Tommy to be notified whenever we go live. We'd really appreciate that as well. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it too. That really helps out with that YouTube algorithm and that robot. That's it for me. Hope everyone enjoyed the week ahead news show. Good night, Youngstown.
Good night, everybody.